Come be a part of Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics with your host, Dr. Ed Holliday. Hear the voices of liberty speaking all across America. Doc Holliday provides thought-provoking interviews and commentary about the issues and actions that are afflicting this country and what we need to do to get America back on track. Get fired up, get inspired, get on board with Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics right now.
And here we go.
And once again, that is the sound of rock cracking. You've got Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. I'm your host, Dr. Ed Holliday, and you're listening to us on webtalkradio.net. And we talk about rock splitting. And when you think the presidential race can't get any crazier, yes, we've had the President of the United States come down with COVID and the First Lady, and they fought that back and gotten better, and then you have the second presidential debate. Well, the commission, without contacting any of the campaigns, decided they're going to do it virtual and just play in the hands of Joe Biden. And Trump's not going to have that. And it just gets crazier everywhere you look, what's going on all across the country. And what else could happen? How about this? There's a documentary coming out called Trump versus Hollywood. Yeah, and you have heard who put this documentary together. She's been our guest before. Drum roll, please. Daphne Barak and her husband Bill Gunasti. We've had them both on before earlier this year, and great interviews. I know you remember them. Go back in the archives and listen to on Bill Gunasti. Had a new book out about Trump and Erdogan there in Turkey, and how Trump's getting a new look at the Middle East and helping bring in peace there. And Bill has a great book, very interested in seeing a perspective that maybe we've not seen before. And then, of course, we had her on and talked about her book about Rick Gates from the Mueller escapades. I don't know what you call it. Not a Mueller report, it's a Mueller Inquisition. But anyway, with Rick Gates talking about the title of the book was To Plea or Not to Plea. So you can go back in the archives. Great shows we had earlier this year. And I thought because of COVID, nothing would happen in Hollywood. They had mentioned at the time they were looking at maybe doing some kind of film about the presidential campaign. And like you and many others, you know there's not anything new in the theaters except for some things they'd put together. I did see the movie Tenet. Saw it 2 or 3 times. I won't see it again, see if I can capture all that, if anybody's been to see the Hollywood movie Tenet at the theaters. But I will tell you this, that they have put together a film, Trump versus Hollywood, using about 25 actors and actresses and rappers and different people in the entertainment business. And there's some liberal, some conservative, but putting together this documentary, Trump versus Hollywood. Take a listen to the trailer. I'm going to play a clip of the trailer, and then we are going to speak with Daphne Barak and Bill Gunasti. So, wow, what a great show, not a better time show. And I'll tell you now, and they will mention it, but if you want to go find out more about this documentary that's coming out very, very soon, you can go to www.fighting4oneamerica, and that's fighting for the number 4 and then 1 spelled out ONE America.com. So take a listen to this clip from the documentary.
So what I've seen with the media, who is notorious for having nasty, dirty, low-life, Hollyweird behavior, attack this man because he's the president, I began to put it together. He knows their secret. I would be a little nervous too.
It bothers me that people won't speak to me because I'm a Trump guy.
Why is it not okay in Hollywood to be a conservative?
I'm defending him because he deserves it.
Thank God for independent movies. If I didn't have independent movies, I wouldn't have a career anymore.
Were you scared it would affect your career in Hollywood?
Are you kidding me?
I don't like to ever feel like Hollywood decides who I am.
There's no compassion. They're so hypocritical, it's unreal. They just don't like the man.
I get to have choices too.
How did our politics get so poisonous?
The president was a partner.
Because we didn't have Hollywood in our back pocket.
What they're trying to project and
have Hollywood in our back pocket.
What they're trying to project and the way people tell them to put out, you don't know anybody's thoughts anymore.
But you just can't be friends with somebody because their political opinion is different than yours. You're a bigot.
Many people who just wanted to throw him under the bus, the first thing they say, he's a racist. Is he a racist?
We need to have that uncomfortable conversation that we don't want to have.
Stop hating, stop the aggression.
Pick a side. Are you black? Are you white? What are you?
Is he America first? Yes. If that's racist, then I'm a racist.
It's urgent. We have a lunatic in the White House.
I feel that it's time to set the example of let's just all get along. You know, we can learn from each other. You know, we don't have to hate each other.
Over the course of your life, you will find that things happen to you that you do not deserve and that are not always warranted. But you have to put your head down and fight, fight, fight.
Well, that was just a part of the trailer that comes with it. Exciting documentary. It's on its way. It'll be airing soon, so keep everything open. We don't know the exact time it's going to be on television, but make sure you see that documentary, Trump versus Hollywood, and who put it together? Well, our friend Daphne, Barak, and let's get a little introduction here and talk to her.
Hi, my favorite dentist.
Oh,
how are you?
Hey, Daphne, I'm doing great.
As a doctor, and who knows better as a dentist, right? I mean, it's so. I mean, we really had to weigh very carefully whether it's that important that we have to do it. And the moment we decided, we put all the, the pluses and minuses. We understood we have to, especially in the light of history happening in front of us and racism and George Floyd and America is divided every day more. And on the other end, with the moment Bill and I decided, yes, we're going to film Trump versus Hollywood, we also had to take all the responsibility to ensure the safety of our crew, the actors who have been amazingly trusting in us.
And see, now, right there, Daphne, because Bill was saying that, I find it hard to believe some of these actors would actually let you come in and film, and you had to I guess, make sure they understood you were going to be extra safe and go by the precautions and social distancing and face masks.
You remember, Doc, at the beginning, when let me just backtrack, when COVID happened and suddenly we walked into lockdown, Bill and I were invited to go urgently to Japan as guests of Nikkei. Nikkei is the most strongest guy in Japan. He's a secretary general of the party. They have different kind of democracy there, and that was already in the works there, that Prime Minister Abe then was going to transfer power to Suga. So we met all the powers to be, and the reasons there, because Bill's book, Trump and Erdogan Game Changer, is going to be published end of this month in Japan and in Turkey by the biggest publisher. So Hanada is a handpicked publisher, favorite of Suga and Abe, right? So it's very prestigious. And the second thing they wanted me to weigh in on the image of the Olympics, and with the Olympics, there was supposed to be, not many people know, an announcement that Japan is going to legalize gambling, which is a huge thing, very complicated, and they wanted the right image. And of course, when they realized they have to postpone the Olympics, they called me immediately to give my 5 cents and do damage control. So when we were there, still people there, there were restaurants open. They took us to the best sushi, hosted us, traditionally as the best the Japanese know. But boom, suddenly America was about to be closed, and we were the last flight from Tokyo. And
oh,
it was
really?
quite surreal. And the only place they found the flight immediately was from Tokyo to San Diego. We were two of the only 3 people in the first class. We found out maybe there were like 2 people on the economy afterwards. It was scary. And when we landed in San Diego, Doc, it was one of these surreal moments, like the world is stopping. So the whole airport, Bill took photos. I have to send it to you. Your viewers could just imagine. I mean, the airport was dark. Even the boards showing flights canceled and all that, they were dark. Nothing, no electricity. And we're walking and quietly, and Bill is taking photos of me in a completely dark, empty airport. And I, as practical as I am, asking Bill, well, how would we find our luggage, right?
Yeah.
So, there's nothing, no electricity. We wouldn't know which, And as we take down the escalator, suddenly the whole airport is empty, and we see 2 suitcases. And by the way, the way from San Diego to our vacation home where we isolated in Indian Wells in the country club usually can take 3 hours, with traffic. Boom, 1 hour and a half we were home. There were no cars. It was quite a bizarre thing. And then, of course, we quarantined 14 days. And that's when we were thinking, yes, to go on with the filming, not to go on with the filming of Trump versus Hollywood.
Well, I'm glad you went on with it. I was thinking when you talk about trying to get your luggage at the airport, that's one time you didn't have to worry about getting luggage mixed up with somebody else's, did you?
No. And no traffic problems. Can you imagine?
Yeah, in California of all places. But I am glad. I mean, the last time we were speaking, you told me you were thinking about doing this film, and I just assumed with COVID it didn't get done because nothing in Hollywood got done. And then Bill was telling us, how it got done.
I have friends, some without naming them, which are, Oscar winner and some of the most prominent directors and producers. And they were calling me admiringly, how do you do that? I mean, there are still some of them indefinite hiatus because, the COVID is coming back and the numbers are going. As you know, as we speak, France and UK are scaling back. They just, close again the bars. Israel again is in a lockdown. It's quite scary.
Well, we've heard from Daphne. Bill, you said this whole documentary, Trump versus Hollywood. Now, does it have a theme? Is it to we live in a divided America, but does this have a theme to unite America?
That's what the documentary became. To unite people. We are saying, Daphne says at the end, "Can we talk?" That's how she ends the documentary. After talking to 24 people, she says, "Can we talk to them?" And then the idea is, can we unite? Can we make it one America? What is divided America right now?
Well, Bill, one thing I want to know, everything I heard during COVID, everything in Hollywood has been shut down. So how did you get this documentary made?
We did it because we took the guidelines, right? The blue guidelines came out from Trump.
Right.
Administration from President Trump, that blue and white thing. We took that thing in front of us. We said, what's the guideline here? Good. It says put a mask, keep the space, make your own decision, have a common sense,
Yeah.
So based on that, we said, that blue and white thing that came out of the White House from President Trump said, live your life like an American would. And so we did. We continued living like that, even though there was an epidemic out there, right? So we did not stop living. So we continued living, so we adjusted it. So we went to 5 different cities, 5 different locations, Texas, Florida, Washington, D.C., New York, and California, of course, various places. And we filmed in their house. Imagine 24 people who are quarantined.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk to anybody, and they are scared to talk to anybody. And they are celebrities, of course, and they don't talk to people anyway, to start with. And now there is more reason not to talk. So from that perspective, that in itself is a documentary, how this is done. This is an accomplishment. And we heard feedback from, people from the industry, seasoned, professionals. I won't give the names at this time, but they said this is an incredible stuff. How it is done, forget about what it is done.
Bill, let me jump in. Just remind our listeners, you're listening to Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. You're listening to us right here on webtalkradio.net, and we're having a fascinating conversation about Trump versus Hollywood, a documentary film that's going to be shown very soon, and we're talking about the two that made it happen. That's Daphne Barak and Bill Gunasti. And in just a minute, we're going to continue with Bill. And then we'll have some more from Daphne to finish up the show. But let me remind you, we also have a book called Bedrock Truths by Doc Holliday, Dr. Alveda King, and Dr. Alex McFarland. Now, for those who are keeping up with books, Dr. Alveda King has a new book called Why Trump? And you can check out by Googling Dr. King, or put her in a search engine, Dr. Alveda King, and you can find out how to get her new book, Why Trump. If you want the book that I wrote with Dr. Alveda King and Dr. Alex McFarland, that is called Bedrock Truths. You can go to www.docholliday.org. We'll have it on the front page of the website. We got a new website, so some things have changed. We're trying to get some things back up, so bear with us on that, but we'll try to get the front page of the book there. And what an outstanding job Web Talk Radio is doing. We appreciate them and what they do to keep our show on the internet 24 hours a day, so you can listen to it anytime you want to and go back in the archives and listen to our past shows. Now, let's get back with Bill.
Like an American did have until these globalists came to the helm, like the pro-Trump people who joined us in this documentary. So 24 people, you can evenly split, half from anti-Trump, half pro-Trump. They all came and talked with a common sense, like a normal American would.
And like we should,
so
right?
They took a risk.
Yeah, like we all should be doing, instead of in the streets fighting each other. We need to be talking to each other.
Exactly. I'm going to give to Daphne so she can give you all those good names.
Thanks, Bill. And all right, Daphne, tell us some names to be in this documentary.
And they say Kevin Sorbo said, "Thank God for independent film." No, they wouldn't give me a job. Dean Cain, and by the way, they say that Trump supporters are not educated, Doc. Uh-huh. Dean Cain is a Princeton grad, very educated guy, like a little looking one.
I'm glad you told me that. I did not know that. I bet my listeners don't either.
Yeah, he's a Princeton grad. He said, "I wasn't even a Republican all the time. I decided to vote for Trump very intellectually." Ted Nugent, you would think you go to a 300-acre ranch in Waco, Texas, and you would think, oh, this guy probably is not educated. The way he speaks about the conservative method is so intellectual, that so informative, that even my editor, I told you, a very famous film director, who is a liberal, when we hired him, he said, "You have to know I'm a liberal." I said, "I used to be a liberal. I became Republican. As long as you're a good editor and you remember it's my film, we're good." And we became close friends, and he actually is so worried right now about Trump's health. He actually started to like him while editing the film, right?
From just editing the film.
Yeah, and by the way, he's the one who said, "Daphne, listen to Ted Nugent." It's amazing to hear that he's not only just a right wing. He has a reason to be a conservative. He made his homework, But what I did, even somebody as extreme as Ted Nugent, he said, I heard that you're friendly with Robert De Niro, Daphne. I said, yeah, Whoopi Goldberg is a friend. Robert De Niro is actually narrating my famous special with the president of Israel, Shimon Peres, right? And we have worked with him very, very close, and he's a wonderful human being. Now, I don't know what happened to him when he decided to start using the F word and F Trump and the
Trump derangement
funny
syndrome.
Story I have to tell you before. That Avi Lerner, the producer, who worked with him and with Robert De Niro and Al Pacino and everything, tell from his point of view the famous moment that De Niro was punching Schwarzenegger because he hated Trump. You remember that, right?
Yeah, right.
It's videotaped. It was weird because I don't know what happened to him. But Avi said it was actually a fundraiser dinner for the Israeli army. So there was both Sheldon Adelson, the billionaire from the right wing, that I brought him and Miri to Trump. They actually wanted to support Ted Cruz, right? And on the other side was the billionaire Chaim Saban, another friend of Avi and I, who is the owner of Univision and supported Obama and Hillary Clinton and gave a lot of money. And Robert De Niro is there, and Avi is in the middle, and he starts suddenly coming to Arnold Schwarzenegger and starting to scream and punch him, and Avi is in the middle getting one of the punch, and he catches De Niro and he said, Bob, what are you doing? Schwarzenegger, why are you punching? Everybody is entitled for their own opinion, but Schwarzenegger doesn't even like Trump. I mean, do your homework, right?
Oh. And now, Daphne, you said you talked to some rappers, and they talked about a conversation. What kind of conversation did the rapper say we as Americans need to have?
Quote, unquote, we have to have this, quote, unquote, uncomfortable conversation. It's not comfortable to have it, but we have to have it. Otherwise, where do we stand? And by the way, Doc, this documentary, Trump versus Hollywood, started actually in the last election. I mean, in my mind. I mean, we just started pre-production in January after we saw the president in Florida several times. He was congratulating Bill on his book, A Game Changer. Trump and Erdogan took the only copy, stole the only copy before the book was out. And then we started to talk about how I brought our friend John Voight, who was very close to Bill and I, fantastic human being, closer to Trump. He was always a Republican, always a conservative, but we made him closer to Trump. And Trump is always so grateful to me. Basically, so we talked about that, and it started actually with my friend Andrea Bocelli, probably the most famous vocalist in the world, most famous opera singer in the world, who really considered to appear, to perform at the inauguration in 2017. Trump did not lie. He really considered it. Bill and I have made a special, 1-hour special with Bocelli and his wife, Veronica, called Maestro at home, and we were very close to them. And Veronica was with me on the phone. And the moment it was leaked to the media, boom. Bocelli received such threats. We are not talking only social media. I mean, they threatened physically on his life, on his little daughter, Virginia, and he had to back off. And actually, Rick Gates, the deputy campaign manager, which I did his book, To Plea or Not to Please, is a story of the Mueller investigation.
Right.
And Rick Gates says in the film that he explained how Bocelli, was so, threatened that Trump graciously actually said, "Don't do it." I totally understand. But unlike people think, Bocelli was there, right? So that really brought an inauguration that had no celebrities. You remember the film showed also how Elton John backed out, and it was a bit, a bit weird. So right now, we looked at the world, two words which are not supposed to exist in our society, and the two words are blacklisting. It was at our friend's Ann Palmer home in Beverly Hills, which there was a fundraiser for Trump, as you remember, months ago, and Deborah Messing suddenly started to tweet, let's see exactly who is going into the house and let's blacklist them. I mean, blacklisting? Are we going back to McCarthy, the darkest area in Hollywood, when people almost committed suicide? What are we talking about? Blacklisting for your own, even in the documentary, even people who really speak terribly against Trump, like Eric Roberts, Julia's brother, who Vanity Fair put him on the cover as the busiest actor in Hollywood. He does everything. And he says we have a lunatic in the White House, but about blacklisting? No. Even he said it cannot be, right? Even Mark Geragos, who is part of our film, one of the most powerful attorneys in Hollywood, which represented Michael Jackson. That's where Bill and I met him, because I did the famous special with Michael Jackson and his parents. He represented Colin Kaepernick right now, Ice Cube. Even he says blacklisting, no. And he explains very intellectually how it's very bizarre that what's happening right now with Trump happened with Clinton historically. So that's very, very dangerous two words. And we have to make sure that we deal with this, because people should not be blacklisted or threatened.
Well, I know this is the United States of America. Yeah, people should have freedom of speech, especially in Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, Doc, it was very interesting. That's why Trump versus Hollywood, because I happen to belong to both. You know, I have been part of Hollywood for a long time. As I said, I used to be a liberal. I hosted Hillary Clinton at my home in 2004. I didn't support her last time. I supported Trump, famously. My husband has always been conservative, but I was a Hollywood liberal. You say that if you're not a liberal before you're 30, something is wrong with you. If you're a liberal after 30, something is wrong with you, right? So I'm one of these cases.
You're right.
Basically, so I have friends on both sides of the aisle, and it's true that, it used to say that to have healthy marriage, Doc, you don't want to talk about religion, right? Right now, to have healthy marriage or healthy friendships, I sometimes just avoid political conversations. Since Trump won the election, surprisingly to many, it's so toxic, this conversation, that, there's some friends of mine in Hollywood that I simply stay away, from one of the most important issues to our life, and that's politics. Like, just to tell you that Trump versus Hollywood, it's not really political. It's actually social. It shows our society, very divided society. And I think we are in a very crucial moment, and the documentary shows it. It's, either we can start a dialogue and let's talk, or we're going to go into two Americas, and it will be beyond repair. It will be very, very scary. Avi Lerner and Brett Ratner are saying, Brett Ratner plans to film Rush 4. You remember he became so famous for Rush 1 and 2 with Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. And basically, he doesn't know when he will, because of the whole, international perception of us. Avi Lerner said, I made hundreds of millions of dollars for Expendable and many movies, because he made 450 movies, because I used to pre-sell them to the Far East. And right now, it's not happening, because the world is looking at America, violence, riots, looting. They're not looking up to us anymore. They're looking down at us. They're looking, what the hell is going on there?
Well, and that's the international picture. I'm sure the scenes that have come out from this summer in America is unsettling to the world. And this election is just throwing everything in sort of a deeper tension that is, I'm hoping your film, as it comes out, will help people realize no matter who wins the election, we've got to talk to each other, and we've got to be able to have freedom of speech. That's what's made America great, that we have freedom of speech. So I do believe this film that you're putting out will help people sit back and see what we are as a nation, and that we have to talk to each other.
And the one thing I want to end this in a good note is the president of one of the three networks, which is going to promote it heavily, said the big thing about it, that it's inclusive. That, Doc, you have, after the George Floyd thing, I looked at Oprah, which I, by the way, I of course think so highly of her, but she said she did like a show, where are we going from now? Right? Where are we going next, right? But I looked, all the people she put there were all black. I mean, aren't we supposed to be white, black, yellow, red, whatever, in order to move forward? On the other hand, you know, even on you know, our side of the aisle, you know, the Republican, conservative, we are just interviewing each other, which is not good. These big film, it's 2 hours and 4 minutes, Trump versus Hollywood, shows all sides. It shows the Trump supporters and their pain. They show and their conviction that still that they would support him, and although they have paid a price. It shows Trump, you know, opponents in Hollywood, like you know, Eric Roberts or Mark Geragos or others. It shows, I mean, Claudia Jordan, who used to be a friend of him, and Prentice, and went against him, you know, and it shows on J Balvin, who one of the biggest Latino singers, who basically canceled his performance in Miss Universe after Trump made his announcement on June 2015 because of his remarks about Mexicans. He knows his audience. He's part of this. And on the other hand, you have, you know, famous black rappers and the players and comedians like Eric B. and Money B. and Too Short and DeRay Davis and Big Baby. And they're all, by the way, there were more lines like Killer Mike and everything. It just, you know, it's only 2 hours and 4 minutes. We wanted it to flow. It's not that there will not be a sequel. So it's really inclusive, everybody in one film. So it actually, you know, the target audience is not a specific one. It's all of us, one America, every part of America.
And we are running out of time. I could talk to Daphne and Bill all day long, but we got to end it. And I just want to say, go out and see their documentary or check it when it comes on television, Trump versus Hollywood. And you know you got the first access to it right here on Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. To find out more, go to Fighting for One America. That means fighting spelled out 4 as in the number 4, 1 ONE America.com. Check it out. And I'm telling you, this has been just a real gift to have Daphne and Bill to talk about their film. One of the few things that were made during the COVID crisis in Hollywood. So go see it, and we'll talk to you next week on Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics.
Thanks for joining us today, and remember to listen again next week for another edition of Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. You can order Ed's new book, Bedrock Truths, by clicking on the book cover right in front of you on the screen, or visit DocHolliday.org. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.